in the Scrambler series or Triumph series of videos. Today we're going to be doing front brakes, front disc and a clutch cable from Slinky Glide. Now obviously I don't know whether the Slinky Glide cable is better than the standard one or whether it's going to be the same, but it certainly won't be any worse. So we're going to pop it on and see how it feels. It's one of those Slinky Glide cable. I'm going to try that, and best part of all, rather lovely new EBC disc. And beautiful. Instead of the standard one. Okay, let's make a start. First of all, before you do any of this, if you have got a lift, then you should really already know about straps. If you're going to put a bike on a lift, or one of the lifts that's on the floor that lifts up under the frame, whatever it is, honestly secure your bike. I always put a couple of load straps. My bench has got eyelets along the edge, like 3 or 6 holes drilled along the lip edge of the steel bench, and I just hook it down with the load straps. That way I don't get a Triumph Scrambler on my head, because that would ruin your whole day. And that way you're working safe, you can move the bike around and you're okay, but still be careful. You still have 180 kilos or so up at head height. That's not nice if it all goes wrong, so be careful for that. I use one of these little lifts under here, showing loads of you that. That lift holds underneath the frame, gives you a bit more stability. It gives you the ability to jack that front wheel off the ground when I need to take it out of the frame, and I'll show you all that in a minute. But first, set the caliper off. As easy as that, getting the caliper off. Like I said in the last video, when it's time to take the caliper pin out, and that little cover, you saw that thing, it's a little tiny grub screw cover that keeps the weather off your caliper pin, which stops it from seizing in. These are absolutely invaluable, but they're very easy to mince. I'll give you some insight at the end how to get those off if you ever mince one, which you will do, because I've done loads. Because there is this business of the caliper swinging around, and this is a lumpy, sharp, edgy metal thing that weighs a lot. What I don't want to do is beat it against the black anodized rim and chip it, so I'm going to take the wheel out of the way while I work on the caliper. So just to get the wheel out of the way to start, literally just going to hook that out of harm's way like that on a bungee strap or anything you've got. If you're working on your front wheel, nothing better than that. As long as you don't stress the hose, the brake hose, if you've got rubber ones, be very careful. If you've got steel ones, still pay attention you're not kinking them, because then that can be a problem. Just pull the caliper back out of the way. Let's take the wheel out. Right, 19mm on the end of the axle to hold it, and 24mm on the axle nut itself. Just at this point, when you're taking the caliper apart, there are orientations of little things that go in and fit in, and to prevent yourself getting stuck and awkward, get your phone at this point or a camera, whatever you've got, and take a photograph of that before you take it out. So the same as the pads. If, unlike these pads are perfectly the same either side. But if they're slightly different, then take a note of the way they come out. And this in particular, you see how that fits in? That's how it comes out. And that's how it goes back in. So before you forget, take a photo of that if you need to. There we go. There it is. And you see this one comes apart with one slide pin on the caliper and the other one on the slide carrier. So you've got one rubber on each instead. So that's different to the rear. But you can see the orientation, and the great thing is they're different sizes, so you can't get them back to front. See, it's idiot-proof pen, even for me.
Wow.
If you could take a quick look, just before, because we're going to take this all apart and clean it. There's another little one of those, just in there now. So just check the orientation of that. You can see that it goes where the casting is that way, so is the pin. Well, that's literally a little bearer made from stainless steel, and the pads bear against it, and you can see from the scratch marks in it that the pads slide along it, and that's its purpose. If the pads, which are made of hard backing metal, was sliding against this cast piece of aluminium, they'd chew a groove in it in no time at all, because it's soft, extremely light but soft. So therefore put these little things in place as bearers to take the impact. So make sure you put them back in after cleaning them. Right, that's everything so far. You know the drill from now. Pump out the pistons. I didn't mention it last time. If I show you on this one, when we pump out the pistons, pump them out. One will come out more than the other, and once it does, and you've got the gum line showing, hold that one still, and that lets the other one come out. And don't pump them out so much that you end up popping them clear, and then the fluid pops out everywhere and you have to rebleed your brakes. That is enough. You want about 5 or 6 mil of shiny piston showing, and no more. That's all. And we're going to clean that now. Here we go. Same drill as last time. Got some clothespin. Down the back, all around that caliper, all around those pistons. And don't be shy with this, just get in there, scrub it all over, get around the back of those pistons. There's lots of room in there. Clean that little ridge in there that the metal clips go in, because the brake dust builds up behind, stops them seating properly, which bungs everything up. I'm going to push the pistons back in now. Somebody made a point in the rear caliper video. I'm just going to put a little bit of, just a tiny little bit of red rubber grease on those pistons to help them slip in and out, make them nice and reactive, nice and quick to react. And the point made in the last video was that when you push them back, you should take the reservoir cap off to allow the fluid to rise. Okay, not so. I would suggest, if at all possible, you never take your fluid reservoir cap off unless it's to change the fluid, because the fluid itself is horribly hygroscopic. The minute you take the lid off a bottle of brake fluid, well, I've got one back there, a bottle of brake fluid, the minute you break the seal, you use it, and then what's left, we all know this, you chuck it away, don't you? You don't use it because it's been opened, the air has been in there and it will absorb the moisture from it. So if you start taking the reservoir cap off your brakes again and again, every time you do something like this, then you're going to expose it to air. Now, there is a tiny little air gap in there that allows air in when the fluid level drops. So as your pads wear thinner, these pistons push out, which means that the fluid in the reservoir will drop in order to come down the line into the back of this caliper and push these pistons out. So when you push them back, you're simply pushing that initial first quantity of fluid back up the line. So say start with a brand new bike, you've got a full reservoir of fluid. If it doesn't leak, then it never needs topping up. If the fluid level is low, it's because the pads are low, because the pad material has worn away, meaning that the pistons have to push out further to reach the disc. So there's more fluid down here in the caliper. So when you then push that back, it all goes back up the line, back up to the reservoir. And that's what it's meant to do. So when you open your cap and you think, oh, it's a little low, I'll top it up. That is so incorrect. In every way that is incorrect. Do not top up your brake fluid. So many people innocently and well-meaningly believe they should top up their brake fluid when it's a little low. No, you shouldn't. You should be looking at your brakes and seeing the condition of your brake pads to see if they need replacing, because that's a surefire indicator that your pads are down, and that is that your fluid is low. So provided you haven't topped your fluid up whilst the pads were low, then when you push these back in right now, the fluid will just go back up to its full level. If you have, on the other hand, incorrectly, innocently been topping up your fluid, all in good intentions, then when you push these pads back, yes indeed, you need to take that cap off and remove some of that fluid as it will overflow, because the system only contains so much fluid. When the pads run down, that quantity of fluid runs down. When you push the pistons back, that quantity of fluid runs back up. And that's what it does. It goes up and down the system for the 2 years until you change the fluid completely. The only time, rightly so, you should be changing or taking the top off that reservoir is to change the fluid every 2 years. You shouldn't have to take it off in between. That's why it comes either see-through with a fill level, or it comes with a glass in it so you can see it. Simple as that. Right, I'm just going to use a pad to bear against these. That just gives me an even pressure, and I've never topped this up. So I'm going to just push them back, a little wiggle, and then they go all the way back to the sockets, completely flush, right the way in until they stop. There we go. And there, take the opportunity with your rag to just wipe off any excess grease that was squeezed out. And there we have it. They are now ready to do the cap. Same as in the last video, caliper absolutely ready to just mount straight on. I will say, all the products that you use in the assembly of your calipers, it seems that a great many of you like to critique the things I use because you believe you have a better option, and I want you to go with what you think is best or what you feel is the information you trust the most. Now, I've used a lithium grease on the slide pins. Some of you have criticised that. You do what you see fit. I've used a red rubber lube on the back, on the side of the pistons. Again, you use what you think is right. I've seen people use Vaseline, I've seen people use silicone grease. There's all manner of different products, but honestly, I want to just bring one point. When I was learning a lot of this from my old man, when I was under 10 years old, he had one pot of grease in his garage and it did everything. And when he oiled his chain, he used some oil and a paintbrush, and we never had a problem. So honestly, I think today we can get a little bit anal about all this stuff, but honestly, I must say, again, you do what works for you, and that is how you will be satisfied with the job you're doing. All I'm trying to do is demonstrate the basic procedure and the level of standard, to quantify the standard as high as you possibly can. Don't stop for anything but the best. Get that absolutely brand new clean. Get those pistons mirror polished. If you can't, then get some new ones. Wimoto sell them, they're not expensive. And again, keep your brakes clean on a regular basis. I think we've covered that with Pen.
Here we have
8 million times. In the winter, when you're riding in the salt, cleaning your brakes should be a 2 or 3 daily thing. You know, hose pipe and some soap of your choice. Right, let's get the dish changed. Okay. Now, I just want to talk very quickly about these bolts. Had some comments on the last video. I'm kind of responding to feedback on this a little bit. I want to talk about, somebody said these bolts stretch and should only be used once. Well, I disagree with that, mainly because if you look at the torque setting on these bolts, it's extremely low. The real ones were 16 pounds-feet, which is ridiculously low for an M8, an 8mm metric fine bolt. It really is. They're not going to stretch till they're about 40 or 50 foot-pounds. So I don't believe they need to be changed or they need to be replaced. They certainly need to be replaced if they're corroded, because corrosion impedes the quality of the bolt. It actually impedes the strength of that bolt to hold in place. And they are thread locked in, as you can see, as you know from the last one. But I don't believe they need to be replaced every single time you take them out. I think you'll get probably 2 or 3 ins and outs. You don't take discs off that often, do you? Let's face it. Only when you're replacing them, or the rim, or having it powder coated, or whatever. But if you're going to take it off reasonably often, maybe you're one of these people who has a show bike, and that's a genuinely relevant point, and you take your discs off to clean in the wheel to get it to show standard, or showroom standard, then that's fine. Then get yourself a handful of them. But I use marine grade A4 disc bolts, and I got them from the guy who made the rims at Doug Richardson Wheel Building, and he recommended and supplied these bolts. They are A4 marine grade stainless, about as good as it gets. And how old are they, Pen? 2 years old?
2.
About 2 years old. And I've only been in once, so torqued up once. So to replace them would be wasteful. I mean, there's 6 of them in there. They're £5 each, that's 30 quid of the bolts. I don't think I'd be replacing those if I wasn't, you know, if they weren't corroded, and they're never going to corrode. They're absolutely not, because again, they're the best possible stainless steel. So undo them in a star pattern across so that you release it, like we did the last time, and then we take them all off. put the axle in, you'll notice there's no stop this side. There's no moulded cap that stops the axle going through. If you push the axle in, all the way in, like that, you'll see that you can take this fork leg and flex it side to side, like that. This is actually able to slide side to side. There's no shim this side or no ridge this side to stop that moving. And the reason for that is to allow the forks to self-center so that both forks are going straight up and down. If you have a rim round there, then it's critical that all the spacers and that are exactly the right size. Even if there's any wear on them and they're wound up too much, you pinch the fork legs in and then you cause a little bit of stiction on the forks because they're not sliding right up and down. The way Triumph have designed it is, this is free floating on this end. So you put the axle all the way through, there's a shoulder, if I pull it out, look. This is the part of the axle. This, as you can see, this leg bears against this. You can see by the marks around it. And this shoulder here bears up against the wheel, this spacer in here. So once that goes through, hang on, then we lift that up, pop it in the hole, slide this through, and that, as you can see, meets up against the inside. And this is then free to move over the axle to boogie around on its own. So we don't put the pinch bolt in, we leave that to find its own natural position and then put the nut on the other end. Okay, holding the axle still, wind up the nut. Now, it's very important to do up the wheel axle completely to its full torque before you put this pin in that holds it against the other side. I'll show you. Let's just get the torque wrench. Lots. There it is. Okay. Come in the front, man. Now what we've done, we have snucked the axle up against the spacer, which goes through the centre tube of the hub, up against this spacer, right out through this fork leg and into the nut. So that's all done up, but watch, this fork leg is still moving around. It's still sliding over that axle. It's not screwed in like the big sports bikes and it's not pinched yet. And the reason for that, this is a clever design by Triumph that it allows the two fork legs to sit naturally in their natural position. Because this fork leg is free to move around, so is this one. The axle, even though it's done up, full tightness, this is still allowed to move. And they will self-center, and that means the forks are not pinched in, pinched out, towed out, nothing. You don't need shims, you don't need anything. You just need to do the wheels up correctly on these particular models of bikes. Okay, a bit of copper slip on that. Here we go. Put that in. And this, once again, allow it to find its natural position. Quite critical that you torque that in because obviously it holds the axle against the fork leg, so make sure you torque it to the correct value. While you're there, and remember, pump your brake caliper out. Remember, they've been pushed right the way back, so those pads are nowhere near the disc. So while the wheel's still up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 full pumps of the lever before they wear out. So if you forget, you come up to the first junction, you're not going to make 8 pumps before that stops. The only thing that's going to pump 8 times is something else. Right, we're going to do a full brake fluid change on this before the jobs are all over and done with, so I'm not too worried about the fluid at the minute. We're going to come to that later. But there we are, last little thing, caliper pad pin. Quite a low torque, that one. Here we are. Now finally, don't forget to put this little cover in. See that close, man? This is a little japanned black metal pin or cap that its job is simply to cover up your brake caliper pin and keep the weather off it. So don't forget to put it in place because it does a job. You just pop a little bit of copper slip there in the hole just to prevent it from seizing in place, and then it just screws in. Nice and simple like that. And I just go in and out a few times just to run that copper slip all the way around there. And then just nip it up, literally like that, 2 fingers, nip it up, that's it. Don't go leaning on it because really these are a great source of anguish. If you get one of these that seizes in completely and you can't get it out, it is the old centre punch trick. Get a little centre punch just against that face, tap it in and you will tap that round to get it out. But if all else fails and you're stuck, it comes ready-made with a little dent in the end. And they know what's going to happen, so that's why they've done it. You just pop a drill bit in there, probably by the look of it, 4 mil or something. You can drill in through that and then put an easy out and then get it out. But if you don't do them up too tight and you do put the copper slip on, they won't seize in there in the first place, which is the best way, isn't it? Okay, let's check it down. Try one of these just in an attempt to get Penny a smoother and silkier clutch pull. We're going to try one of these Slinky Glide cables. They're marketed as, actually that's lovely, just do that a minute. That is lovely, that is so smooth, there's almost no effort on that compared to the normal one, which, you look at it, you can't really feel that. You can't feel it, but I can. I mean that, alright, this is a new cable and this isn't, but I think when you look at the two, I'll show you why I'm leaving that in situ in a minute, but when you look at them you can see the difference. The Slinky Glide cable is thicker. The actual cable itself is thicker, very much exactly the same on the end, but this is a stainless steel cable. This is marketed as a stainless steel inner cable, and if you feel it, it's got a coating over it, like a soft coating, and this has not, it's just metal. See, that slides 10 times easier than that one, and they're both straight. That's why I've taken that one out. So the only reason I've left that in situ is I'm going to chase the routing of it through. So bottom end first, and I'm going to chase that one through exactly the same route so I don't end up with it in the wrong place. There we are. That's it. Take stand one out. Right, that hammer's a little bit snug in there, but it goes in. So take your time and feed it in with a bit of lubricant, it'll go all right. setting a clutch cable, there are 2 adjustments on the slack of the cable. You've got one up here, which is your kind of ready reckoner. You can do that with your fingers at any time, so that's the one you might do on a hot day if your cable's stretched a bit. There's one down here which is a little bit more permanent. This adjusting screw here is half in and half out, so we've got as much adjustment in as we have out. And a new cable, we're going to allow a little bit of room for it to stretch. So I'm going to just take that out a little bit. And I've got full clutch there. There you are. Now you might ride this up the road at this point, and you might find you don't quite like it. You can reach forward, put the just adjust it off or on a bit, so you should have half the adjustment in and out. So you should have it in the middle, at the top, and then set it at the bottom. Wherever that ends up at the bottom, that doesn't matter, it's not important, it's at the top, because that's your hand adjustment on the road, when you might not have tools to do it. And finally, if you come in close on this pen, you just zoom in, you'll see that in order to get the cable through this adjuster, there's a slot in it there, and there's a slot in the jam wheel, like that. So you have to line them up to get the cable out when you fit it. So when you do this, always make sure you turn that downwards, if you can, so that that slot, which exposes the cable, is facing downwards. If it's upwards like that, then all the rain's going to fall in there, it's going to run down inside the cable and cause problems with it, even if it is a Slinky glide. So just turn it up the other way, doesn't hurt whatsoever. And then when you put the jam or the lock wheel in, just wind it up against the bracket and just nip it up with your fingers. There you go, simple as that. Now that won't move. And we can make the adjustments on that as we need to, or you can, can't you, Pen? Mm-hmm. As you're riding along, you might find that needs a little bit more or less, or whatever. You can just do it by hand. And if you find a perfect position up here, then you can just set that, and that sets you down. So there we are, cable as well. Right, I'm just going to wipe my sticky fingerprints, my greasy fingerprints off the disc with some brake cleaner. And that's only because I handled it. Somebody asked a question in this. Do these discs come with a greasy layer that you need to wipe off? I know car discs do, they come with like a delivery oil, but these don't. These came out, these EBC discs came out of the box absolutely bone dry and polished. They don't need anything, but where you've been handling them, dirty hands, if you've had latex gloves or whatever, it doesn't matter, you will put sticky fingerprints on them, so make sure you wipe them off before you do the job. Right, let's get it down, shall we, Pen? Mm-hmm. Right, that's video 3 out of the series of 5. That's nice now, much better. Slinky glide cable, definitely worth doing every 4 or 5 years. If you've got a clutch with a cable, sticking a cable on it really makes a difference. That's lovely now. In fact, one finger. It wasn't like that before. Honestly, the old cable, chewy, push it in and out, it felt like it was going through toffee. That one just pushes in and out loose, and that's better. Also, it's got a thicker inner core, I quite like that. It doesn't necessarily break, because cables don't break these days, not if you replace them every now and again. If a cable breaks, it's because you've neglected it too long. Certainly when there's a resistance to it, that's when it's a liability of breaking, because it's pulling harder on these ends, on the little blocks on the ends, than it's designed to do, and that's when they snap and you end up stranded. So, new cable, that's good. Next thing's fluids, isn't it, Pen? Yes. Oil and filter next time, and then the brake fluid itself. We're going to stick with .4 fluid. Somebody asked, going to put .5 fluid in it? No. .5 fluid is okay for racing and stuff like that, but honestly, it is the best, it is better. And some people say, well, why wouldn't you want it then? Because you don't need it, it's as simple as that. Racetrack bikes might use it, but road bikes just need .4. That's absolutely fine. And if you're going to put .5 into a .4 system, which it currently is, you need to tear the brakes apart and replace all the rubbers and replace all the hoses. Honestly, it's a nightmare. So we're not going there. We're going to stick with .4 fluid and oil and filter, rock oil, all that. We're going to show that in the next one. After that, one more job. It's just the shocks to do, that's all. We're going to put something a bit more exotic on there, give it a bit more feel, so again, it generally improves the bike. Finally, just want to say one thing about the brakes. These EBC brakes, a few people said, why? Is there a reason? There's a few of you a bit puzzled as to why we're doing it. Well, it's like this. I've always used copper sintered HH pads in my bikes. I did it on the Big Tiger, and I put them in the Harley as well, and there is a cost. Now those pads, they are more abrasive. The copper content in them, the metallic content in those pads, it's more abrasive against the disc. So if you imagine, as an analogy, you imagine braking with sandpaper, with coarse sandpaper, rather than just a pad material, it would really bite better, wouldn't it? It would have much more bite because it's gritty, it's got more abrasion. And that's what these copper sintered HH pads do. They have more abrasion, and as they bite the disc, they'll stop you better because they're actually scraping on the disc with a little bit more abrasive force. Now when you've got 2-pot caliper on the front, 1 disc, and a 2-pot caliper on the back, 1 little disc. You haven't got much going for you really. It's not like a sports bike with those massive big front 6-pot chompers. It's only got quite wimpy brakes, a bike like this, and it weighs nearly 200 kilos. So the only way you can upgrade the braking force is to put pads on that have a little bit of abrasion in them, and that's what those copper sintered HH pads are for. They're great for bikes with medium flavour brakes. It will upgrade them without worrying about putting 4-pot calipers and all that stuff on there. They already come with metal braided hoses, so they don't need to worry about that. And it already comes with 2-pot calipers front and rear. And when you service them the way we have, and you've refurbished them to the level that we have, then you put the sintered pads in, you're going to get serious braking force, and that's going to be quite an upgrade. And that's what Penny wanted, wasn't it?
That's right.
Do a bit more braking resistance, a bit more feel. Because obviously then you don't have to pull so hard on the lever, it stops more responsive, it's more calm. The whole riding experience is a little bit more responsive. And the final reason for the discs is that this more abrasiveness in those pads, it will chomp through the discs quicker. It absolutely does. I've always seen it and I don't care. Because to me, that if that's the cost of better braking, I'm not bothered. I'll pay it. It's worth it. Because better brakes, the best possible brakes you can have, there should be no cost put on that. If you put this on factory discs, it will chomp through them in no time. I've found this loads of times. But the EBC discs, perhaps it's the way they're made, I don't know, they will resist that extra abrasion and they don't wear out nearly as quickly as factory discs. So I've taken off the factory discs, I put EBC discs on, because with the right pads that we've got in there now, that is going to be seriously improved. And I think she'll like that, won't you?
That's right, it's my pride and joy.
That's it, it's what it's about. It's just a little upgrade, that's what it is. The custom bike, the custom work on this has never stopped for the 4 years we've had it, and it will go on forever, I'm probably imagining. There we go.
For a bit.
Right, we'll see you at the weekend for the oil and fluids, and after that the final job, then she's on the road to the spring.
Thank you.
Okay, see you Saturday folks, ride safe. See you next time.